Hey there. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is, whatever time it is, where you are when you're watching this. This is Geoff. Last week, last week, last year, I made a collection called Meditations for an Independent Poet, where I'm basically putting forward my case that I think poets need to be moving away from traditional sources, especially this year and next year. As things get crazier with arts funding, with AI and things like that. I think now is honestly the best time for poets to be going out, making a name for themselves, finding ways to live on their art if that's something that they're interested in. And this is kind of like the manifesto, putting forth the idea. So I made the essay book, and I've been very slow with making the audiobook and also the video book because I think those are really key components when you put work out, trying to get it out in as many forms as possible for people to reach at whatever level they need to be reached at. And so this is the start of the journey to create the audiobook and the video book. These will be free, although I will compile the audiobook, so if people want to kind of have it together as something that's a little bit neater, that will be an option in the future once we finish. But there's a lot of essays to get through before we get to that. If you're interested in the book itself, it's also available on Amazon, or if you come through the Stanza, my poetry venue, you can actually get it for free there. Otherwise, you have to order it online. So let's take a look. We're going to be working backwards because I'm going to need to compile all the essays together, and it's going to make it easier for me to work backwards than the other way around. It's just a note. The way the book works is, again, it's lots of mini essays that are punctuated by Roman numeral sections up to 10, which each explore a different fear that poets have as they consider a new approach to their work that's more independent and not reliant on nonprofit or academia or philanthropy and things like that. It's more if you're trying to make it on your own. So the very final section of the book, 10. The poet fears work being created for a financial purpose is work that's not genuine. The motivations for writing can be cast in doubt, as the writer may be believed solely to be creating for income and personal interest, not for poetry. A poet cannot speak for the motivations of others. There will be independent poets who have greater interest in income than in art. That doesn't have to be you, though. A creatively and financially independent poet can choose what to prioritize. This is what independent means. To no longer be subject to outside forces to determine what an offer is or how the offer is created. There are coffee shops that give a percentage of proceeds to end human trafficking. There are clothing brands that give socks or shoes to the homeless for every article sold. There is eyeglass stores that give free pairs to kids in need. These are examples of how companies can link humanitarian drive with product. For examples of companies that link altruistic goals with production, consider the fabric store that creates using recycled clothes. There are chocolate manufacturers that source from fair trade suppliers. Furniture stores can create tables from sustainably harvested wood. Whether for the process of creating poetry or the final product generated from poetry, it's the poet who's in charge of how genuine the art is. It's also the poet alone who knows the motivation for creating the offer. So if you're a poet who's nervous about the word business, you're afraid that when you make poetry or art for considerations like this, that it takes away from the art. It can. I can't remove that risk. However, it's also possible that it won't. If you're staying true to the intentions of the work. One of the things I tell people a lot is that I think business is the most altruistic form of art, because you're basically saying, I'm making this not only for myself, but I'm making it to serve other people. Whereas most of the times when artists are creating work, it's often just purely for the self. Some things to think about. I'll be back. Ideally, I'd like to show up every day because these essays aren't crazy long. And we'll try to knock them out one by one by one. A lot more essays to go, but here's to the first one as we work on creating the audio and video book for Meditations for the Independent Poet. I hope you guys have a good day, have a good night, and a good afternoon.